Alright guys, welcome back to Crossover Pairings, where I basically talk about crossover pairings that I've seen or made up in the past. And I kind of talk about, could these relationships work and what would they be like if they were in a relationship? And as you can see from the title, today I'm going to be talking about Wolverine from, of course, X-Men and Starling from Stormhawks. So Wolverine and Starling from Stormhawks. This is actually a pairing I created out of my head, because honestly, I could see these two working being in a relationship. I could honestly see these two in a kind of functioning relationship. Honestly, now with Wolverine, he's been with a lot of dangerous women. Tiger. You've got also Lady Deathstrike. You got so many people. Even Mariko was very dangerous in her own respect. So Starling kind of fits in that dangerous woman persona. And, I think those two would connect, because I think, honestly, if they were to ever meet, and actually, in my X-Men Stormhawks crossover, that my good friend Carlotta Studios will be taking over, she offered to take it, and as I've said, and I'm pretty sure she's watching this now. Hi, Carlotta! She said that she'd take over this Stormhawks X-Men crossover that I kind of had in my head. She'd take over, and one of the ideas I had for that story was that Wolverine and Starling meet and kind of get into a relationship in a way. They both kind of share a mutual attraction towards one another. So with Wolverine, however, how they meet, if Wolverine and Starling ever first meet, it would not be in the best interest. I don't think, Wolverine, I could imagine, is out scouting around on Atmos, and then he runs into Starling, who's like, who the hell is this little yellow spandex freak? And Wolverine just pops his claws, and then Starling's like, I don't know who or what you are, but I am going to kick your ass. So the two fight, and eventually Wolverine and Starling are kind of, the fight's broken up, and later on Wolverine's like, hey, sorry for scaring you. Let me buy you a beer or something, or whatever the hell you got on this planet. And it kind of kicks off from there. Now, Wolverine and Logan and Starling's relationship, I think, would be something like, because Wolverine he's a charmer at heart. He may, people may say, oh, he's just the bad boy and everyone likes the bad boy. And to an extent that's true, but really Wolverine's kind of a romantic. He is a very, passionate kind of person. When he gets with someone, he makes sure he is a little defensive. He does have some walls, because obviously all of his past relationships are not exactly good. I mean, hell, even his personal friendships are kind of like at arm's distance. He only lets a certain amount of people get in close, because either they hurt him or he inadvertently hurts them. So that kind of leads to a lot of trust issues. With Starling, you can kind of tell it's the same thing, where even with the Stormhawks and how close she is and how much she defends them, she kind of keeps them at arm's length from her, because she doesn't want to go through the same pain of losing her squad again. She's kind of traumatized by that, loss, and why she kind of goes lone wolf. And I think Wolverine would be there like, yeah, I was there. I've been where you are. I've lost friends in wars and battles, and, people I've cared about in certain conflicts, but, it's the people we have around us that keep us going. So I think that would be the start, is that Wolverine, of all people, would be like, hey, go hang out with the Stormhawks. They seem like good people, and you could learn a lot from them. So with that, I think that would be the opening doors, that Wolverine would be kind of like, look, I don't do this I do this team thing, but it took me a long time to be a team player. Honestly, it took me a long time to be a team player until, but for the most part, I did nothing but, grump and bitch and, cut everything down in front of me, and I liked it, because it made me feel happy. So I think Wolverine and Starling's relationship would kind of start there. Now, obviously, like I said, there would be kind of walls between them, mental walls between them, because, again, they just don't want to be hurt again. They just don't want to be hurt of loss over again. And I think that would be, maybe a thing that breaks them. It may be obviously a point where obviously Starling lives on Atmos and Wolverine's all the way on Earth. So, star-crossed lovers, but Wolverine's had his share of those. Hell, he even banged a caveman in one story. So he knows about, star-crossed lovers in one way or another, so Wolverine would have to be over like, hey, I know this girl, but she's on another planet. She's also really tall. No, really, I think Starling would be a lot taller than Wolverine. I honestly think Wolverine would be short. Wolverine's pretty short. He's only 5'10", and Wolverine looks like she's... excuse me, Starling, almost said Wolverine. Yeah, Starling looks like she's about 6'1". So, she'd be a good head taller than Logan. But Wolverine's been with taller women before. So, yeah. Among other things, I could definitely see them kind of bonding over, past battles, where I think, Wolverine would be telling her about all the past adventures he had, and Starling would be doing the same, and I think Starling would be kind of open to Logan about the day she lost the other Interceptors to Repton and his group. So I think that would be, and I think Wolverine in turn would want to tell her the story, like, oh yeah, I know a lot about that, and just pop his claws and be like, this didn't come with the mutant powers. He just pops his claws and just tells her the story of what happened to him in Weapon X, and then I think there would be some connection there. Both of them seem, like loners, but they don't want to be alone for all the time. So this is one relationship where it's not like where I talked about in the previous one, with Shishomaru and Mirage from Aladdin. This relationship, I think, has a bigger potential of lasting longer. I think there would be, some, mental distance, because they don't do that. They're obviously traumatized by, everything that happened between them in the past. So there would be, there would be that potential of being like, look, I'm too close to you, and that scares the shit out of me. I can't do this. So that might, it could easily break them, but on the other hand, it could easily make, both Logan and Starling's relationship even stronger from that, like them learning to kind of trust each other on it. And, yeah, could you imagine that Logan and Starling's kids, those kids would be badass. If you thought someone like the other Wolverine children outside of Daken were scary and badass, could you imagine one if he had sex with Starling? Could you imagine that kid? Kid would be a little fucking locomotive of pain. But yeah, it wouldn't be like with, like I said, with Shishomaru Mirage, where it'd be like more like booty calls. No, there would be like, they would just spend time together. Not just fighting, although I would imagine Logan and Starling would be, they would have their, not so, like, I would imagine they would argue, but I think they would spar, like, have a friendly spar as well, and I think it would just be hilarious, like, one scene where Wolverine just, like, pops his claws and be like, so, babe, claws or no claws? And then she'd be like, claws. Thought so. And they'd be like, winner cooks dinner. And then Logan would be like, then you better hope I lose, babe. Yeah. So, 50-50 on if this relationship would work. I personally just invented it because they have so many similarities between them. So, there you go. Wolverine and Starling. So you guys tell me, what do you guys think of if Wolverine and Starling got into a relationship? Do you think it could work? Do you not think it could work? And yeah, just comment below, let me know. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.